Right, switch to an alternate microphone. Its sound is going to be terrible for a minute. I do not know what's going on with the microphone at the moment, but thanks for letting me know. I have not spotted the issue there. Enjoy the wrestling. I have a big pile of wrestling to catch up with on the weekend. I am weeks behind on Stardom, and there's just so much wrestling. I think I may actually be months behind on no, weeks. I'm in March on Stardom, so we'll see what happens there. Right, I'm just going to try switching back to the good mic and see if it fixes itself. That's very awkward. just... Aha! Hey, there we go. Right, that's hopefully a little bit better now. Right, apologies. I'll go back to the beginning, in which case I'm Alex Tremaine. I'm an old man who builds Gundam. Today we will be continuing the build of the Master Grade Full Armour Unicorn. Last stream we came to finished off the right arm, been moving on to the left arm now. I have not had time to panel line in the meantime. So that'll be something that I probably do in the background on the weekend when I have some time to catch up on things. So yes, thank you for the host, Shitapapu. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the wrestling if you haven't already vanished. And if you are there, what wrestling are you catching up on? Oh, thank you for the follow, Life So Peachy. Right, so let's get you out of the way, and we have left arm 11, 13 and 15. 11, 13, 15, 21. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that they aren't the most popular, but I can't blame you for your choices. I am massively behind on New Japan, probably even further behind than I am on Stardom, and we haven't even gotten around to watching Revolution. So yeah, I there are only so many hours in a week, it turns out, and there's so much wrestling. We wife and I used to yeah, I mean that's that was, I mean, WWE, that was among the reasons we dropped WWE. There are, as I say, there's only so many hours in the week in which you can watch wrestling or do anything, and there's a lot of WWE, but also, you know, with all of the, they're just, even for a wrestling company, they're kind of problematic. Yeah, that's fair. It's good to have something that you can catch up with. I've been, for the last year, I've been mostly keeping up with friends through pen and paper role-playing games, online obviously these days. I don't have many sort of not so many of my sort of local friends who in years past I would see on a regular basis are into wrestling. So, well, enjoy the food. It will be lovely to have you along for the ride, and enjoy catching up on the wrestling. I've heard some good things about this week's AEW, so enjoy Dynamite. hope everybody's had a reasonable week. Mine has been blessedly quiet at work. Just been able to get things done after a busy day on Tuesday before the stream. It's been nice to have a couple of days with basically nothing on at work except the daily grind, which is a relief. And I have a nice meeting-free day tomorrow. And Fridays are an early finish, so I am going to be finishing off tomorrow, and then probably having a quiet evening, catching up on things. Since with this being the first week that I've been doing two weeknight streams rather than a Thursday and a Sunday, it's been kind of busy. I have the aforementioned tabletop role-playing games, one every other Monday, and this week was an on week for that game, and one every Wednesday, which I run. So it's been a busy old week. I haven't had an evening of sort of not being fully online at all this week, which has been a bit tiring, but the weekend approacheth, which is good. Going to be spending at least one day. I don't know whether it's going to be tomorrow, or if it'll be Saturday or Sunday, but at least one either day or evening is going to be spent catching up on wrestling. Which way round are we going with this one? That way. That way. That one goes on top. Right. And my lovely wife picked up the Blu-ray versions of the Tenchimoyo OVAs, OVA 1 and 2, which we watched the first half of earlier in the week. Well, Sunday. So I'd like to finish off that at some point this weekend. That was a nostalgia fest if ever I've had one, and not in a bad way. It was it's held up remarkably well for something that I used to have on VHS. This is an awkward angle to get into, but there we go. What else do we need? J19. Just this one. It's kind of weird the way the sort of coping mechanisms of lockdown have sort of changed things for me. I mean, I've been working from home for over a full year now, as of last week. Year anniversary, and I'll be honest, I don't miss the commute. I don't miss having to get up an hour earlier. I don't miss finishing work and then getting home an hour later than I currently, or half an hour to an hour later than I do at the moment. I mean, I realise I've been lucky in that regard, with the work that I do. That's a possibility for me, but yeah, the keeping up with friends, it's weird. The every other Monday tabletop game that I'm in, that's a bunch of old friends from university, who most of whom live in varying parts of London, and I live in the Midlands. So for each of us except the person whose house we used to have the game at, it was about 2 hours of travel, or hour and a half, 2 hours of travel for each of us, because London, basically. The game was being held in Essex. One player had to come from sort of Dartford way, and one was coming from Croydon, so travel times were not great. So we used to sort of meet up and have that game every, I don't know, we used to make it sort of 3 or 4 times a year on average, which was not ideal. But since lockdown, although we aren't seeing each other in person, we're seeing each other more. And I'm hoping that's going to continue after restrictions ease, though it will be nice to actually see people in person as well. Don't get me wrong, I am looking forward to seeing people in person. It's yeah, it's going to be. It's been a weird old year, and it's continuing to be a weird old year. We were supposed to go to Japan over Christmas just gone. We were supposed to go to Japan, and that's not happened, which was a real disappointment. We were very much looking forward to that. We were even going to go to Wrestle Kingdom on the 4th of January, or the 5th, probably the 4th, if we could have got tickets. But that didn't happen either. As I say, it's not been. What am I doing wrong here? It's not been the best of years for anyone, I don't think. Right, so what are we on to next? B10, J22 and E5. B10. B10. We haven't cancelled the Japan trip, it has merely been postponed. We are still looking forward to doing it, but it's probably going to be 2 years down the road now. Just to make sure that all of the restrictions are out of the way. It's a heck of a trip from the UK. So we want to make sure that we can make the most of it, given we're probably not going to have the opportunity to do it again. And that means making sure that that there isn't anything we can't do at the other end. So yeah, Wrestle Kingdom in a couple of years, I guess. There we go. Where was I? J22. There was, in wrestling news, there was bad news for sort of UK wrestling, in that the Resistance Gallery in London has closed, which was where I never had the opportunity to get there myself, but it was a popular venue. Pro Wrestling Eve used it as their primary venue. And whilst I'd made it to some of the bigger Pro Wrestling Eve shows, I never made it to the Resistance Gallery, sadly, and now I'm not going to have the opportunity to do so unless things change. I mean, the wrestling scene in the UK has already been screwed 6 ways to Sunday because of the first WWE buying all the wrestlers with their and then, you know, signing all the wrestlers and then never putting them actually on any shows. And I don't begrudge the wrestlers getting paid, you know, and especially at the moment, I do not begrudge people doing whatever they need to do to have some security, and you know, there is security there, but the WWE product is just not great, and in addition to that, they are even for a wrestling company, they are a deeply unpleasant piece of work. So I find it hard to justify watching it. And then, of course, last summer there was all of the there was an awful lot of revelations about the terrible way that the terrible abuse that had been going on from various high profile and lower profile male members of the UK wrestling community towards female wrestlers of the UK community. So the UK scene is kind of fucked at the moment, because there's basically nobody who can put on shows, and a lot of what used to be big stars or big stars in the local scene are quite rightfully, you know, persona non grata. It was one of the reasons why sort of when it all broke last year, I ended up very disillusioned with wrestling for a little while, and I ended up just only keeping up with Stardom, because, you know, there were no problematic dudes in Stardom. and that was something that appealed to me and still appeals to me. Plus the fact that it's just great. They have some really fucking good wrestling in that company. Some incredible wrestlers. Just had their biggest show ever earlier this month, which was outstanding. So yeah, it's been a real swings and roundabouts year for wrestling. Either way, that's going to be my weekend. There's going to be some wrestling, some anime, probably catch up on playing some computer games, though I don't know what. Probably something that doesn't need much of my brain to occupy itself. So I'll have a think about that when the time comes. And I might finally start the well, I was going to say I might finally start the kit I bought to keep me busy off stream for when I wanted to build something when I'm not online. But well, mistakes were made yesterday. You know, sometimes it's payday, and sometimes on payday you make little indiscretions. And this month's little indiscretion was that I have a perfect grade Banshee Norn and the LED lighting kit for it coming tomorrow. So we'll see what happens on the weekend. My weekend may... I think I probably won't dig straight into that kit this weekend, but I make no promises. I make no promises. That's the same as the other one. I'm going to have a look at that. Right, so this fits onto here, and then fits in place like so. There we go. Arm's beginning to come together. Right, G16 and E9. So we need E. Don't you knock over. That isn't going to be necessary for the moment, so we're just going to get that out of the way. Right, E9, which is this one. So, following on from last stream's discussion of really stupid comics, I was having a poke through the comic book shelf, which I haven't really dug into for a little while. G16. To try and remind myself of either other dumb or good comics for recommendations. It turns out that I do, to my shame, still have the Marvel vs. DC and the Amalgam Age of Comics trade paperbacks, which I had a quick flick through and are in fact just as dumb as I remember them being, even dumber in places. But I was reminded of a couple of things that I didn't think of last stream. And I mean, you may have sensed a theme in the sort of list of comic book authors I read or read or have collections of, based on what was discussed was discussed on Tuesday. But turns out I like a lot of the British, the sort of big name British comic book authors. So another Grant Morrison suggestion is the Grant Morrison Kid Eternity, which was a Ver.Ka imprint from DC, or was a comic published on the Ver.Ka imprint from DC way back, and it's another nice little sort of half superhero, half horror comic. That's a fun ride with some interesting artwork. It's the art style is, I can't remember who the artist is, but it's certainly it's not what you'd normally expect from a sort of superhero comic, and the character sort of originates in sort of just the straight DC universe, Kid Eternity, so that's worth a look if you ever see it knocking around. Neil Gaiman's Black Orchid was another one I spotted while I was down there. Having a look through the shelves, that's worth a look. And from the Alan Moore end of things, the big one I completely failed to think of was the what am I doing? Wrong way up. Was the Alan Moore Captain Britain run, which is a wild ride if you've never read it. Again, it's from the 80s, so the usual the 80s were a different place caveat, and bear that in mind when you're reading it. But yeah, I will do over the weekend a proper dig through everything though, and see if I can dig out some of the more dubious purchases I've made over the years, comics wise. I suspect that in my collection of DC Elseworlds comics, there's probably some real weird stuff. well, there's no probably about it. There really is some weird stuff, but a lot of it I haven't read for God knows how long. See previous comments about only so many hours in a week. And the world keeps creating new stuff for me to watch and read, which, you know, is good. Getting stuck in the past is not something I ever want to end up doing. It's important to keep an eye on the now and the future as well. I mean, there's comfort in nostalgia, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I do try to sort of at least vaguely keep up with what's going on in the world culturally. So that would be yes. One thing I am going to have to do at some point in the next, well, few months, in the next indeterminate period of time when I actually have the time to do so, is finally get round to watching some Gundam. It's weird, I've been watching anime on and off since the late 90s, and despite the popularity of it and the pervasiveness of it, never actually seen any Gundam. Which given my sudden investment in this new hobby is seems like a hole in my education. So there is going to be some. I'm going to have a look at what where the best jumping on point is. Whether it's just best to go straight from the start 42 years ago, or there's so much of it, you know. I went looking both to investigate, you know, what series the models I was building were coming from, you know, each individual, you know, which of the mini Gundam series was each of these from. But just the sheer scale of what's out there is daunting. There's been, you know, as far as I can tell, there has not been a year since 1979 where there has not been at least one new Gundam, well, not new Gundam anime, but where there has not been at least one new or continuing Gundam series. 42 years. There's very little out there that has that kind of continuity. Which means they must be doing something right, and I'm curious to find out what that something is. So much easier to get anime these days. You know, gone are the days when I first got into anime, where the only way to find it in this country was, you know, it was just starting to appear on shelves in places like Virgin Megastores and the like, and even then it was only the sort of big name animes that were showing up, your Akiras and your Ghost in the Shell movie, and inevitably the well, everything from manga video, so Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Erotica Doji, among other things, Ninja Scroll. If you wanted anything more interesting, it was mail order or fan subs. And I was fortunate at university that there was an anime society, and the Anime Society did have people who were plugged into the fan sub network, so I saw... Oh, the Ghibli stuff was available at the time. That was a big enough thing that it was available fairly easily. Evangelion was available as well, but even Evangelion, I had to get that mail order. That was not something that showed up in shops until a few years later. I was talking with my dad the other day about how things have changed in the time we've each been alive, and you know, just in my lifetime, in the lifetime I can remember, we've gone from home computers being the ZX81, which is the first one we had in the house, to the internet as it exists today, you know, which is baffling. I mean, it doesn't feel baffling on a day-to-day basis, you know. When when I think back to as a kid playing computer games on a ZX Spectrum with a whole 48K of memory, loading games off a cassette tape. It's I know I get to talk into the void on a computer that, you know, is millions of times more powerful than that old Spectrum. I think the biggest one for me is the biggest sort of, when I was young, we had, after the Spectrum, we had a BBC Micro. For those that don't know, the British Broadcasting Corporation had a computer that they sold, a home computer. It was this was back in the early days of computers, and if memory serves, it existed because the BBC wanted a standardized computer that they could use for teaching, to have their educational programs for kids and not kids, I guess. I think it got fairly heavily used by the Open University as well at the time, but I might be misremembering that. So an awful lot of school computers at the time, in fact almost all school computers at the time, were these BBC Micros. But one of the big games that was available for them was Elite, which is a space flight sim, and for its time was very advanced. It was, you know, pseudo 3D, though it was wireframe graphics. It was available on the BBC, the Amiga, the Atari ST, and a few other computers. You know, there was very little in the way of exclusivity in those days, particularly for the sort of games that actually sold. You know. And I spent hours on that game as a kid. You know, it was an open universe. You could do what you wanted, and you could buy different spaceships and aim to become elite by the ranking of the game. And I played that in the 80s and 90s on this old BBC computer. And nowadays I can play the remake of that game, Elite Dangerous, in beautiful high definition, glorious graphics, wearing a VR headset, allowing me to look around and see the whole thing as if I was in the ship. And that's a hell of a piece of progress, you know? I genuinely look forward to seeing where technology takes us in the future. I don't remember. I was not bored as a kid, you know, but if I had to go back to, you know, not having the internet and modern computers and everything that comes with it, it would be very difficult. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. The world is a very different place, and that's no bad thing. And that's why it's important for people, particularly people like me who are beginning to get on a bit, to actually try and keep abreast of what's going on. Lest one becomes one of the people holding things back. That's certainly something I never want to end up being. We've got enough people like that in the world today. Right, so that is everything down to here. So we are building a hand and putting the shoulder joint together. So, on a different note, a more stream-related note, I guess. 9 and 10 and 8. Yeah. I've been toying with the idea of doing the odd gaming stream every now and again when I end up at a loose end of an evening or a weekend. It's not going to be a regular thing. Well, it's not going to be a scheduled thing at any rate. It'll probably end up being quite regular because, you know, my default solution to being bored is to either build Gundams or play computer games. I've been having a think about the disadvantage of not having a scheduled slot for it is something that has something like an RPG that has obvious progression and storylines and things is possibly not the best choice, as opposed to something that's easier for people to drop in and out of. So I've been toying with the options available. One thing I've been having fun with recently is Dyson Sphere program, which, if you've not come across it, is a real-time, I don't know what it's like Factorio, except you're trying to build a Dyson Sphere and it's 3D. I can't think of a better way to describe it than that, really. Factorio is kind of the baseline for those for that kind of game. You know, it's probably not the first, but I think it's kind of the most well known at this stage in the game. So that was something I was thinking of, because even though there is a sort of degree of progression there, it lends itself more to dropping in and out of things. Similarly, Cities Skylines is something I've been considering the odd stream of. I periodically get sucked into Destiny 2, which I've been a little out of recently, so I don't know what it's like at the moment. I haven't really played it since before Christmas, in that Cyberpunk 2077 came out before Christmas and essentially stole my life away. Destiny has the advantage of being very easy to drop in and out of. There's no sort of nobody's going to miss anything if I play it in the intervening periods. If you've not had the opportunity or not given it a chance, the Cyberpunk game is really good. I totally understand if people have problems with the developer and don't want to give them money based on the crunch that was associated with that product. But it's a good game. Though I've not had any major problems with bugs with it, but maybe give it another few patches before digging into it. I know my experience has not necessarily been the common experience with it. But yeah, as Shooter Poppy mentions, mixing it up seems like a good thing. Don't want to get everybody bored with just listening to me rant while I build Gundams. I've also ended up through the wonders of the Humble Monthly Bundle, or Humble Choice as it is these days. I've ended up with Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami's 1 and 2, which I really need to get into, and there is obviously a fairly substantial story sort of content in there, but by the same token there's an awful lot of non-sort story stuff that I could probably do in the background should I desire to. So that's been another one I've been toying with as an option. Also strategy games in general. I periodically spend weeks at a time being exceptionally bad at playing Stellaris. And you know, I have no objection to being told how wrong I'm getting it on stream on that one, because I do get it wrong. I love the game, but I'm very bad at it. That's probably common with a lot of games I play, actually. There was every now and again I look sideways at EVE Online and think I should log back into that and see what it's like these days. And then I remember how many hours in the week I don't have available to me and realise that that's not a good idea. That game swallowed a good 10 years of my life. Not that I regret it in any way, but you know, I don't think I have the fortitude to do that again at this stage in the game. In a similar vein of, I enjoy the game but I'm very bad at it. I do enjoy Magic the Gathering, but I'm not sure that that making people watch me lose over and over again at that is necessarily going to make for an entertaining streaming environment. Right, one hand. I quite like these, the hands on these master grades. There was more articulation than I expected on them. I mean, it's not like I don't know if you've ever seen if any of you have ever actually seen a perfect grade in person, every single knuckle joint is articulated on the hands of the perfect grade models, which is madness. I couldn't believe it the first time I built one, and that turned out to be the case. But yeah, they articulate the whole hand. Some very clever injection molding work to get those hands together. I was shocked and impressed the first time I came across one of those. In fact, that's something I should probably do at some point. Let's get this the right way around, like this, and like that, and then this goes on here. Come on. Why are you not? This way. No, that way. And this goes on here. And there we go. Right. We have a hand fitted. But yes, what I should do is at the beginning of one of these streams, I should bring these two down to show off, because they're really rather nice. At some point I will have the spare hours to go back and panel line them, and that will make them look even more fantastic. So yes, I might pencil that in for the beginning of next Tuesday's stream to do a bit of a show off of those two perfect grades. And of course by then I will have the well, as I say, the Banshee Norn perfect grade is arriving tomorrow along with the LED kit for it. So I don't know if that's something I want to do on stream, or if that's something I want to do as a something I want to do just in the background on my own. I think I probably should do that on stream, given what's the complexity of what's going to be involved in that. That's probably something that will be interesting for people to see. So I think what I will probably do is put something up on Twitter around sort of games I have available that I might be willing to, that I could be persuaded to play on stream, and also what kits are in my backlog for potentially building on stream. As I say, I had a planned sort of schedule in that building this unicorn at the moment, and I have the perfect grey Strike Freedom already waiting to go, but I can be talked into other things if people have preferences. Ooh. This is rounded edge down, that goes in here like so, and then we need E15. E15. And at some point, I don't know when, but I've made a promise to myself to work out some way of streaming from the garage, so I can stream some working on the kit car. I don't know that there's going to be an easy way to get close-ups of what's going on, but I figure it's worth giving it a try. Just got to work out how. There's some logistical questions around how I get internet up to the garage in order to achieve a stream from out there, but I'm going to try. That'll probably be out towards summertime though, at the very earliest. The garage is not currently in a state fit for people to see. Right, so there we go. That is the shoulder done. We need some G17s to go in there. Now then, these, if memory serves, the There we go. There's the transformation into destroy mode, and then that clips back into place like so. Right, so G17 and G17. Let's get those in. Thinking about things that kept me from being bored when I was younger. Model building has been off and on a thing in my life, in one form or another. I built several radio control car kits when I was younger. Tamiya kits, which were de rigueur at the time. My understanding is that they're still quite popular. I mean, Tamiya's still going. I have some Tamiya side cutters knocking around here somewhere. And I also built and briefly flew a radio controlled plane of the internal combustion engine variety. That was an experience to build. It was a kit, but there was a lot more sort of it wasn't so much here are the parts, it was here are the materials, and you, unlike the radio control cars where it really was, you know, kind of similar to this, to be honest. Everything came pre-cut and ready for assembly, essentially, but not so much with the radio controlled plane. It was very much, there were some things that were pre-cut, but an awful lot of it was not. There we go. No. Put that in the right way around. That's more like it. So that fits into place like so. And I should do the same for the other arm. Yeah, it was, I mean, I was like 14, 15, something like that. I think I was 14 when I started building it, and then there was a brief, it took me a good few months to finish it, and then there was a I was fortunate enough that there was a local flying club at a disused airfield with people who knew what they were doing. So I was able to get instruction on how to fly the thing, because they are, you know, it's not like today when you can, you know, you can go and get a quadcopter or a drone or something. They're lightweight, they're broadly speaking kind of safe, they're intuitive to operate, without very much sort of guidance at all. You can get quite good results from that kind of thing, but model aircraft that's got a big old propeller on the front of it, and the propellers were nylon. They made them out of, and they were sharp. And the planes were light-ish, but not light in comparison to, you know, a modern day drone. So what I found the hard way is that if you end up with your finger in the way of the propeller, it goes poorly for your finger. Really very poorly, to be honest. As I discovered one day out in the at the airfield with my dad, and yes, that was a very swift trip to the hospital that followed on from that. I have come on, you can focus on it. Come on. There we go. I have this horseshoe shaped scar here. To this day, was from the propeller, where I was very fortunate that the propeller came in at an angle to my knuckle rather than into an open joint. I was told reliably by the extremely helpful people at the airfield, one, that if it had come into a joint it would have just taken my finger off, two, that I was really lucky the engine had only been idling, because if it hadn't been idling it would probably have just gone through the knuckle anyway, and three, most people do it twice before they learn, and I'm sat there bleeding 15 years old and thinking, that's not really what I need to hear right now. That's not helpful at all, really. But as it happened, at the time, one of the downsides of becoming 16 was the indemnity insurance for flying one of these things, because, as mentioned, they are big, heavy, dangerous objects, became significantly more expensive when you turned 16. So I was forced to sell it off because I couldn't afford to fly it anymore, which was a shame, but I did enjoy the build. Right, it's 8:30 somehow. We've made it to 8:30. So I am going to put us on break briefly. I'm going to have a drink and stretch my legs, and I would encourage you to do the same, and I will be back in a little under 5 minutes, I suspect. thank you all for coming along, and I shall see you all very shortly. Welcome back. I'm Alex Tremaine. If you've just joined us, or if you joined us before the break, but after we started, I guess, I am an old man who builds Gundam, and today continuing the build of the Master Grade Full Armour Unicorn. Before the break, just finished off the left arm of the model, and we're going to move on to the shoulder units now, which will probably might take us to the end of the stream. We might get onto the waist unit as well. There's not actually as much to the shoulder units as I thought there was, so we will get straight into this. So 2 of J23, E13 and J17. So these are J17. J23 is these two. And E13. E13. And we need 2 of these, so we need the other sprue E. Right, let's tidy these up. So yeah, despite the horrible bleeding agony that it resulted in, I have considered getting, on a couple of occasions, trying to get back into radio controlled aircraft, but it's a lot more controlled than it was, and it was pretty controlled back in the 90s. I also have, even before getting into building Gunpla, I also had, you know, enough on my plate with a project car in the garage and work and computer games to play, and it was a nice idea, but the practicalities of it were a little over the top, unfortunately. I mean, even back when I was doing it, you couldn't just take a radio control plane out to any old field and fly it. My understanding is that that's even more so now, what with all the incidents around drones at airports and other such things. I don't know if the regulations if they've actually finished tightening up the regulations, but I know they were going to. It seemed a bit overkill to me, but a lot of things that happen in this world seem to be a little over the top in response to what it's actually trying to tackle. So there you are. But instead, it has meant that I can spend my disposable income on Gunpla, which is probably a more sensible way of spending it than on radio controlled aircraft that I'd probably only crash anyway. There's only so much one can afford. Certainly it's going to be a few months before I can afford anything more substantial in the way of Gunpla. That's the Banshee Norn is certainly the Banshee Norn is certainly the last perfect grade I'm getting for some time, I think. Be restricting myself to real grades, I suspect, for a little while. Or master grades. There's not a great deal of price difference between real grades and master grades, so. What I have noticed, certainly with this, is that there's and I don't know if it's to do with the age of the models when they were released, because I think the real grade unicorn is a noticeable. I've not checked the dates, but certainly the impression I get from the manuals and just the design of the kit is the real grade is a more recently released kit than the master grade is. But there is there is significantly less detail in the moulding on the master grade. I've panel lined the torsos on both of these, and there's a lot more panel lining detail just built into the model on the real grade in comparison to the master grade. So it's interesting, the comparison of the two, you know. I'll certainly be very interested to see what the detail is like on the how the detail on the moulding compares on the perfect grade Banshee Norn. But having done another real grade, having done the real grade New Gundam recently, again, that's a model with an awful lot of detail in the moulding. We do indeed have two arms now. just moved on to the shoulders. But yeah, it's coming along. In fact, I'll probably just pull these off because they're going to need to come off for the shoulders to go on. But they've got the come on. There it is. The transformation to destroy mode. I think these also hinge out to expose a little more of the frame. I was pleasantly surprised to discover recently that these frames are UV active, which I hadn't realised. Going to have to do a little bit of fettling on this arm because this isn't quite sitting flush. Needs a little pressure to sit in place, so I'm going to have a look in there and see what's causing that. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the real grade new looks like once it's been panel lined. I think that's a model that is really going to benefit from the panel lining. I think that's going to really pop when it's done. As I say, there's a lot of detail in the moulding of that model. Right, so these go together like this, and then this. Yeah, and then this clips on like so. And same again for the other side. Right, so what goes on next? E12. Oh, no, there we go. Separate those two off. Well, So this just goes straight on. Some interesting angles that these knobs are at. This on. Yes. I'm sure I was going to have the angle to get the cutters on there, but it was okay in the end. Right. Yes, that's come up all right. What's this doing? There we go. Right. So this clips on better. This clips on like so. There we go. Clean this up. Tell you what, one thing I am going to do when I'm fortunate in that, due to being, you know, old, as mentioned, I get the I'm getting the COVID jab on, or my first COVID jab on Sunday. No idea which version of the jab we're getting around here. I guess I'll find out on Sunday. But it's the beginning of that light at the end of the tunnel. And you know, I'm not going to be having the vaccine and then instantly toddling off down the pub for a few pints, but I'm looking forward to hopefully sometime in the summer when toddling off down the pub for a few pints might not be something that's out of the realms of possibility. I mean, it's not like I was regularly spending nights down at the pub before lockdown, you know, but the opportunity was always there, you know. I do not, I no longer drink the way I did when I was in my 20s, nor do I respond to drinking the way I did when I was in my 20s. So, I mean, part of that, I guess, is that I got out of the habit of going down the pub. But part of it is also just the way I drank when I was in my 20s was probably not healthy. Probably didn't do myself or my body any favours at the time. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but yes, probably best that I don't do that anymore. Gone, thankfully, are the days when polishing off half a bottle of whiskey in an evening seems like a thing that's even faintly a good idea. But it would be nice to sit in a beer garden somewhere with a bunch of friends and consume some real ale together. It would be really nice to go to a live wrestling show as well. It's been so long since I've done that. Used to, we're fortunate locally that I used to be able to go to, Wolverhampton is within striking distance. And it used to be, could go to the Fight Club Pro shows there on a regular basis, but that's not, well, I mean, they've not been happening for quite some time now. Hopefully there will come a time when they start happening again, but But yeah, the last live wrestling show I went to was in London. Actually, it was Wrestle Queendom 3 Pro Wrestling Eve. That was a good show. It was a very good show indeed. But yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago now, even though it was only sort of 14-15 months at most. B11 and 12. Did he be 11 and 12? We had tickets to Rammstein gig that's just been postponed until 2022, having previously been postponed until 2021. So that's another thing to look forward to in quite a long way away now. But it's still on the cards. At least it does appear that there is a light at the end of the tunnel now. On the downside, it means I'm probably going to be sick as a dog on Monday. From the side effects of the jab. Which is a real shame. E14. Yeah, we'll come back to that. Let's not cut too many pieces off the sprue in one go. That said, I think we're going to finish off some sprues here tonight. Because I think everything on these E sprues is going to be used in the shoulder pieces. I think we'll probably finish off sprue J as well. Right, let's trim this down. to be careful not to clip off the bits we actually need off this. I came very close on the Banshee version of this at this point to clipping off this little sticky out bit, which would have been most unfortunate because it's not a bit that needs clipping off. Right, so this way. So this clips on there like so, and that means we need this one for the other side. Goes on each side like that, then okay, now I'm confused. That edge. That edge. There it is. I knew there was a third nub mark, just couldn't see it for the life of me. See, the advantage of these white parts is that it's very easy to clean them up in a way that makes the nub marks next to invisible, but sometimes finding them to clean up is the biggest challenge. Right, so this one goes on this side like so. Something I am going to be doing, trying to work out how to do, streaming wise, is I am going to be looking at the possibility of doing some streaming of VR games. There's an interesting sort of space capital ship combat game called Battle Group VR that I have enjoyed playing, which I think might be an interesting thing to try and stream. Would I'm not going to try and stream Beam Saber because I'm awful at it. Don't get me wrong, I love Beam Saber. It's Beat Saber, not Beam Saber. I love Beat Saber. It's really good. It's an incredibly fun game. I'm awful at it, like really, really bad. The older I've gotten, shockingly, the worse I've got at games that require coordination. Weep for Sprue E, for it is no more. First dead sprue of this kit. Right, let's get these. go. Right, so how does this attach itself? Oh yes, I remember. So that sits in place. Then we need J24, which is this. Let's take both of these off. That is everything off sprue J. Weep for sprue J. For it is no more. Right, let's do this. Right, so that then, which way round does this go? This goes this way round. So we have this here, and then this clips on across both of those pieces there to hold them together. Then it's not. That's better. There we go. Right, so this then sits on top of that like so. And then this clips in place like that, and we have a completed shoulder unit. something about that. Just keep an eye on it, be careful. There we go. We have a shoulder unit. So, let's do the same for the other side. Up so everything sits flush. Right. Then it's the Psycho Frame in green. So this then clips on here, like so. There we go. Likewise goes on this side. nice clips on there. Butterfingers this evening. There we go, and then the last couple of parts from the second sprue E. And yes, that is also a dead sprue. So, looks like we're definitely going to get these shoulders finished this evening. Right, so this lives that way round, and then this falls out of my fingers. There we go, right. That clips on like so. Right. This then clips on the top there, and then finally that clips into place. We have a second shoulder unit. Doo-doo. Right, we are definitely getting further into this. I would say that this is sort of, you know, halfway through a build with anything else, but I know what's to come on the I know what's to come on the full armor side of things. So we have many extras to go with this kit, but this is certainly for the moment a good starting point. I will try to get some of this panel lining done off stream, but I don't know exactly when I'm going to have the time to do that. Might get the chance over the weekend. I may get distracted by other things. One thing I haven't really done with this is actually try transforming it. So I guess actually I don't think I've got what I need to do that on the head, but we can probably transform everything else. So little tool. There it is. This side does not want to. This side is not as willing to settle open. There we go. Right, so if memory serves, so there we go. With the exception of the head, that's the, there's a transformation into destroy mode. Let's see what we can do with the head. So understanding is that that folds up under there. We do have to remove the horn. No, let's put that on the right side. So this was the problem I had on the Banshee as well, is that it doesn't quite sit right when transformed, so I need to look at what is I need to look at where it's binding and causing the problem that's preventing that from sitting correctly. So for the moment, I'm afraid it's going to have to remain as normal. Let's get that back in place. But straighten up the horn a little. But I think all in all, this is still coming along quite nicely. I don't think we're going to get much further on this today. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a once over with the UV light. See how that looks. Looks rather nice. Yeah, the frame looks. Yeah, it's weird. The camera actually picks up UV light a lot more clearly. There's a lot of purple shows up on camera when I put it on, but the green parts are actually UV active on this. They fluoresce quite nicely under UV light. The shelf I'm going to set up is going to end up having some UV on it as well. If I just put this down for a second, because I have the master grade Banshee, which is a very similar kit. This isn't the Ver.Ka, this is just the regular Banshee. And again, this one likewise fluoresces. So there's going to be some definitely going to be some blacklight set up on the shelf that these are going on. Yeah, it's I think it's coming along nicely. Today has been fruitful. Got all the way to the shoulders. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the perfect grade looks like with the lighting unit in on the Banshee. Definitely going to have to think about whether that gets built on stream or if that's something that I do separately. But yeah, it's a... There we go. Get that secure, and these clip in like so. And then the shoulders. Come on. They fold under. I will say the shoulders on this, the transformation is a lot less fiddly on the shoulders than it is on the real grade. The shoulder units on the real grade are a real pain to transform. Yeah, so there we go. Back into unicorn mode. So yes, definitely going to have these lit with a black light of some variety. I've seen some nice cheap LED blacklight strips that just run off a USB cable, which I think are going to be what does the job. In the meantime, I think this is probably a good point to call it for the evening, because it is a school night, so I have to be in work in the morning, which is a shame, but it's Friday tomorrow, which means the weekend is nearly here, for which I am very grateful. Anyway, thank you all for being here. It's been a really good stream, got some good progress done. It's been a nice sort of relaxing break of an evening. I do find these streams kind of therapeutic in that I get to sit here and just ramble while building Gunpla, and that's actually really pleasant for me. So if you'd enjoyed the stream, I'd be grateful for a follow. If you want to follow me on Twitter, hey, don't worry about it. Life is life, you know, and I totally understand the need to watch wrestling. You know, I am not going to judge you for that. As I say, I'm going to be spending a goodly chunk of this weekend catching up on Stardom. So I am guilty of the same. But it has been nice to have you popping in as and when. Yeah, I'd be totally up for that. It's I don't have a huge number of people, certainly around here, that are into wrestling. It's mostly just me and my wife. So I am always up to chat to people about wrestling. I will no doubt catch up with you on the Discord. Yeah, it's been a great night, and I will definitely be back on Tuesday. I might have a short stream at some point on the weekend, but no promises on that front. Depends what I can set up. In the meantime, something I will do on Tuesday is bring down the perfect grades and do a bit of a show and tell on those at the beginning of the stream. So because I haven't really done that yet. And in the meantime, have a great weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday at the latest.